Hello, excuse me, everybody, just one announcement and out of here. Those who have traveled from the region and have costs to be reimbursed, please do that now. The next coffee break, you walk out this door to the left or the other door. There's people there to reimburse you for your costs. We sent an email over this. So please do this now, in the first coffee break, and then after that, those people are going to leave. So you're going to have a problem. So please do that if you haven't. Thank you.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everybody. It's my great pleasure to be here as a part of this great celebration, and it's also my great privilege to to open actually the panel sessions. And this first panel will be dedicated to the influence of Fulbright programs to science and research in our region. First, I'd like to announce that we actually have a slight change in the program, so not all the people that are mentioned here and behind were able to join us here, actually. So Professor Vladimir Kostić, who you could meet last night, he was there last night, but he was not feeling very well, so he just apologized for not being here. And also, Professor Natalia Shikova from Macedonia could not join us here today. But luckily, as our Fulbright societies are so big, we could easily find replacements that will just speak about the same topic today. So, as you know, these panels are scheduled for 75 minutes. We are going to discuss some of the, I would say, like nice topics and how the Fulbright program influenced all of us and our society. We'll try to stick with the science and the research in our region, but who knows, our experiences are much broader than just having the Fulbright impact on science in Serbia and actually all former Yugoslavia. So now we have 5 panelists. You saw my name. I come from Belgrade, University of Belgrade, from the Faculty of Chemistry, so I'm a natural scientist. And we also have a great privilege of having the participants from Croatia, as you have already heard in this morning. So Luka Boršić he's our first panelist. He comes from Zagreb. He holds a PhD in philosophy. That's the first PhD. And the second one he got in history of philosophy at the University of Zagreb. So he's now a director and senior research associate at the Institute of Philosophy in Zagreb. Luka is also a president of Croatian Fulbright Society. Actually, I decided about all of these people and about all of us, we could say a lot of words, but I just decided to keep it short, just to mention some important things. And with the Google, you can Google the names and find all the information that you might need. Also, the panelists will speak for themselves. So another thing that is important for Luka is that he had his Fulbright Scholar Fellowship in 2019, and he spent time in New York at Columbia University.
Thanks.
Our second panelist is Jelka Isailović. She is a biologist, holds a PhD in biology. She works at the Faculty of Natural Sciences and Mathematics at University of Novi Sad.
No.
And Niš, sorry. Of course, Jelka, I know, but we discussed last night that probably I will make some mistakes, so I apologize. Of course, I know Jelka is my colleague. I know she's in Niš, but I hope this will be the only mistake we make today. Hopefully, but we'll see. So Jelka works in Niš, that's for sure. And what I'm not going to make a mistake is that Jelka did her Fulbright Fellowship at University of Urbana during 2018. She started at the end of 2018 and finished in 2019. And she will later on talk about the influence of Fulbright program on biology in our region. The next one is the famous one, Professor Radmilo Pešić. We already heard about him. That's why I said famous. We heard in this morning session about Professor Radmilo Pešić. He holds a PhD in economy, but he was an employee at the Faculty of Agriculture here at the University of Belgrade. His stories are enormous. His experience is enormous. And just the time that we are giving him today will not be enough to share with us everything that he can say. But, use your time today, hang him, grab him during the lunch or during the coffee time and ask him about more things, not just about the things that he will discuss today. Professor Katarina Vučićević comes from the University of Belgrade, the Faculty of Pharmacy, where she got her PhD. And she spent her Fulbright time at the University of California in San Francisco during the 2016 and 17. Yeah. And last but not the least, of course, is Professor Nikola Čanak. He holds a PhD in forensic pathology. And what is extraordinary is that he actually holds 2 Fulbright scholarships. So the first time he, as a Fulbright scholar, he was associated to University of Stanford in 1986 and 1967. And then just a year after, he was associated as a Fulbright scholar at the Cornell University. So let us start now. Like the time is already counting and we are a little bit late. So Luka, share with us your experiences in social sciences and how does it look like now in our region?
Okay, so thanks for the wonderful introduction and the first question. Untypically for my profession, which is philosophy, my answer will be short and blunt. I don't know. I simply don't know. But now comes my philosophical part. Now I'll talk much more about what I don't know and why I don't know.
That's why we let you speak first. Yeah.
Thanks. It's a very obvious fact, I think, that we simply don't have surveys. There is, we don't know, and I hope maybe one day we'll have some surveys, some reports about what are the impacts, what are the consequences of Fulbright scholarship in the region. However, on a large scale, on the whole Fulbright organization, there is also a lack of surveys, except one exception. Namely, around the year 2015, the Institute of International Education, the famous IIE we are all familiar with, which runs the Fulbright in the States, lost its momentum and was attacked by claims that Fulbright is not really efficient, the Fulbright program might be put in question, etc., in the States. And in order to fix the situation, they made a survey of impact of Fulbright scholarships in the whole world, in the region, in the period from 2005 to 2015. And of course, expectedly, the report showed that the Fulbright program has made a more substantial impact on science in both host and sending countries through various mechanisms than it was, of course, expected. And then, of course, it encouraged the authors of the survey to introduce a term which we might also use here, and I think which will be very appropriate, namely the term of Fulbright effect of Fulbright scholarship. So, but let me, before I finish my short introduction, give you a very short summary of this survey, and which might be kind of typical of what not only we are all familiar with, but also what we heard in very nice speeches in yesterday's ceremony of award-winning Fulbrighters. So, in a certain way, the Fulbright effect consists of the following elements. First, it seems there is very good reason to claim that the Fulbrighters have a higher publication and research outputs than others. So, this research showed that of, let's say, 1,000 people who responded, there were in a year more than 1,200 books, so 1,000 people published more than one book in average. Of 2,000 people published more than 5,000 articles, peer-reviewed articles, which is more than 2 articles per year per person. Book chapters the same, 1,200 persons published more than 2,500 book chapters. So generally, it is very high publication productions of Fulbrighters. Second consequence of this Fulbright effect is fostering cross-cultural collaborations, which this is also what we heard, and about that I might speak a little bit later, because there is, of course, very interesting, I would say, disproportion between humanities and social sciences on one side and natural sciences on another side, which might be a topic for later. There is also a very important element of which we heard yesterday very much and which is really wonderful, that is namely building local expertise and capacities. Namely, by bringing the scholars to institutions in different countries, the program provides both the scholars and host institutions with exposure to new research methods in cutting-edge scientific knowledge to build new institutions and to found new things in their home countries, which is, of course, crucial. Then the fourth is enhancing research infrastructure. And this is also a very interesting thing, namely that Fulbrighters often who won prestigious scholarships are then more encouraged and more inclined to apply for new grants. So in average, Fulbrighters bring money to home institutions by applying to other grants because they have expertise, they know how to do it, and they're not afraid to do it. And finally, about which we heard also a lot of last night, and which we are very familiar, namely promoting scientific diplomacy, namely just being promoters of some openness to the world, about some this kind of soft diplomacy that we all do. So much for my first.
Oh, thank you. So, like as Luka mentioned, we think that there is a big difference in the impact the Fulbright is having in the social and the sciences and humanities and for the people in the natural sciences. So Jelka comes from the natural scientists. She is a biologist, as I have already mentioned. And Jelka, what's your opinion? Like, what is the impact of the Fulbrighters and the Fulbright program in whole here in our region? Let's say in biology, this is your field.
Well, I will be, let's say, mostly historian in this moment, because what I can say is based on, let's say, some facts or stories from the recent history. So I would say that particularly in the area where I'm coming from, it is population biology and evolutionary biology and population genetics. I think that Fulbright grant program had a very, very important positive influence on the development of modern population genetics and evolutionary biology and so on in the region. So after the Second World War in Yugoslavia, we had the different university centers, which actually were historically connected to different university centers in Europe. So I cannot talk about the entire region. But for example, interesting thing was that in Serbia, at that time there was only University of Belgrade. So at biology studies, there were no genetics, no course of genetics at all. Why? Well, it's interesting. There was a course on evolution and a little bit of genetics, but genetics doesn't exist. And in 1965, it is the first generation of Fulbright students from the region. So I found the name of my distinguished professor and academician, Dragoslav Marinković. He was a Fulbright grantee for year 65, 66. And in 65, he just completed his PhD, which was on ecology and behavior of a small insect which parasitize on beans, very, very good model organism for population studies. And at that time, the eminent professors and academicians with the international reputation, who were his professors at the University of Belgrade, they realized that it is a moment now to start to develop modern genetics. And well, I think, according to his biography, they encouraged him to go to apply for a grant. Even it is not mentioned in the biography, but he went to Rockefeller University in New York. He got a Fulbright a grant for 1 year, and then there he learned from Theodosius Dobzhansky. And Theodosius Dobzhansky is, well, in simple words, a Darwin of 20th century. So after return from that scholarship, as a young assistant professor, so Dragoslav Marinković founded or reestablished the chair of evolution and genetics to genetics and evolution. And he started to develop population genetics. So actually, he established something and developed something we can now name as the Belgrade School of Genetics. And he was, actually, his personality was of that kind that he was a man of cooperation, of international collaboration. And I remember as a student and later as a young researcher at Institute for Biological Research in Belgrade when I started my career, that we had enormous flux or flow of foreign scientists and professors giving lectures, and it was wonderful. It is something which is really, say, a Fulbright-like. So that's that international spirit. And I think it is one of the great achievements of Professor and academician Dragoslav Marinković, and I suppose that it was initiated by this first Fulbright grant. I mean that he would really, how to say, be that kind of person. Even Fulbright grant didn't exist, but Fulbright grant for sure helped him very much, and he continues his very fruitful cooperation with the universities in United States. And of course, all his assistants, so first, second generation, third, there was a really very much, very big flow of information, exchange of knowledge, and so on. And another nice moment in 1967, let's say, or more or less, so a young professor, Dragoslav Marinković, met a young professor or assistant professor, Ljubomir Berberović, famous genetist and also member of Bosnian Academy of Science and Arts. He was from University of Sarajevo. So they were actually the students of two schools, two very important schools of modern genetics. So Berberović came from University of Birmingham, where he was learning from Kenneth Mather, who was a student of famous Ronald Fisher, who together with Sewell Wright and Haldane, William Haldane and Dobzhansky, they actually renewed or improved or modernized, that's the best word, modernized Darwin's evolutionary theory and made this evolutionary synthesis. So Berberović and Marinković, they were, how to say, they were very much involved in establishment of or foundation of Yugoslav Society of Genetists, and well, it was something very nice. Only it was lasting until 80s.
Thank you, Jelka. This is, I would say, a very interesting story. And although I'm a chemist, so I come from the very familiar science close to biology, I've never heard this story before. And it's actually a very big impact and a huge impact that Fulbright had on our society. Mm-hmm. Genetics is, I guess you all know, like how important it is in all sciences, not just the natural sciences. So how, Radmilo, how it looks like in the economy and the agriculture and the sustainable development? There are so many topics that you can talk about, and not just having the Fulbright impact, but let's try to explain how it looked like when you were the Fulbrighter and how it looks like now.
Well, as you have heard, I was one of the last Fulbrighters from former Yugoslavia. I was at the Texas A&M University in College Station during 1990-1991. And I don't want to talk about gloomy 90s, what happened when I returned back to Belgrade. But it is true what Professor Vučićević has said, that Fulbright Alumni Association, created in 1992, was formed and was active out of spite against the political intentions of that time ruling elite. However, some 10 years later, after gloomy and troubled 90s, fruitful seeds of the Fulbright program have blossomed. And today I would like to talk about that. I would like to focus your attention on the three most precious achievements of the Fulbright program in Serbia. First are accomplishments in university education, second in science, and third in public policy. In all of the mentioned fields, Fulbright scholars played a crucial role. I don't want to mention today any of the Fulbrighters' names. Instead, I would like to remind you of the deeds, of the outcomes, or the Fulbright fruits. Following the year 2000, the University of Belgrade underwent significant transformations, not solely due to implementing of the Bologna process, but also due to inception of numerous new courses. Within my faculty, notable advancements were achieved particularly in the realms of plant genetics and plant pathology, phytopathology and phytomedicine. State-of-art scientific methodologies and techniques were incorporated, resulting in the development of new educational materials, new textbooks. In 2006, an international master program entitled Environmental Protection in Agriculture and Food Industry was established in collaboration with the Boden-Universität from Vienna. The comprehensive integration of environmental and natural resource economics was implemented across all three academic levels. And I would like to tell you that environmental and natural resource economics was probably the best souvenir from Texas A&M. My primary intention was to try to grab something more about American fiscal system. However, at Texas A&M, I had a great opportunity to meet one of esteemed professors, Ron Griffin, and I was very interested in his work about water economics, water management in Texas. And that's the way how story goes. So environmental and natural resource economics was just the outcome of this first deep analysis of environmental policy in the United States. I think that it's very important to say that the practice of joint preparation of scientific papers is very important. A number of American and Serbian scholars prepared jointly high-quality scientific papers and published them in prestigious international journals. That was the best way to promote Serbian science and to raise visibility of the local authors. On the other side, the lessons learned from this joint scientific production helped Serbian journalists to raise their quality, to become better journalists, and to be internationally more visible. After 2000, when the new Fulbright program was set up, several American scholars came to Serbia. Among the outstanding were our guests at the Faculty of Agriculture, bringing to us not only the most advanced and up-to-date scientific methods, but also a spirit of global responsibility and the notion of sustainability in natural resource use. Therefore, it is not an overstatement to say that, judging from all above, the Fulbright program was one of the best and the most fruitful foreign investment ever made in this part of the world.
Thank you.
Later on, I will try to say something about the impact of Fulbright program in public policy arena in Serbia and internationally.
Yeah, I think we'll have time left also.
Yeah.
I said we have to stick with time because we have another panel going on after us, and also we have a lunch, we don't want the lunch to get cold. So Katarina, I'll ask you to share a bit of your experience and how does it look like from your point of view? How does the Fulbright program reflect on the pharmaceutical sciences? We come from the similar sciences, we could say it's a natural scientist. And you also, while we were preparing for this session, you mentioned some very interesting facts about specifically your faculty here. Yeah. And I also want to thank you and later on to thank Professor Nikola that you just jumped in this panel. We tried to prepare this in last 2 weeks, and then just last night when we invited you, you were so eager to join us. So I first want to thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you very much for... thank you for inviting me to be one of the panelists today, and thank you for a kind introduction. I would like to start by congratulating to everyone on this 16th anniversary. It's really an incredible milestone that reflects decades of dedication to fostering academic exchange, collaboration, and innovation. And being just a member of this society is really an honor. But on the other hand, I would say that it's kind of a responsibility and it's a testimony, so you have to, stick to the concept and to the whole concept of the Fulbright scholarship in general. But if we talk about impact of the Fulbright Scholarship on the scientific field of pharmacy or medical sciences, I would say that at my faculty, I'm not the only one. Actually, there are 5 other Fulbright scholars, and rather in a short period of time, basically year by year, each of us was awarded a Fulbright Scholarship. And you know, the funny part is if you come and visit Faculty of Pharmacy, and if you go to the B block and you visit the 3rd floor, there are 5 departments there. And if you go from office to office, basically in each of the offices, you will meet one of the professors who was a Fulbright scholar. So I think this is an incredible value that we have at the Faculty of Pharmacy.
Well, let me just say a short word
Yeah.
for the American Embassy here in Belgrade. Think about opening the Fulbright office at the Faculty of Pharmacy.
Yeah, yeah. Informally, we already have it. So I believe that all of us together, basically, we move the science in our own fields. We brought some new methodologies, new ideas. We innovated the teaching approaches. We also initiated many scientific research. We brought many colleagues from the States to our country. So I believe that this was a very, very nice way just to, you know, bring the science up, and not just in terms from our perspective and from the perspective of the science, but also in every day we are working with the young people. So we basically share the knowledge, we share our skills, we are transferring the values every day, and I believe that the best way to shape the better future is actually to work with young people, to work with the students. So I believe that what we have learned there and the skills that we upgraded during our stay there is now being transferred to young people who will be, you know, the leaders of the future and of the innovation of the science in general, but also at the Faculty of Pharmacy. For me, Fulbright was not just a scholarship. It was actually a journey. It was a transformative journey. It was a cultural journey. Okay, on one side, of course, you work professionally to, you know, learn new things, to advance your skills. But on the other hand, you're exposed to different cultures, to people also who are coming from different countries. And maybe one of the memorable moments was a Fulbright enrichment seminar. And it was a seminar which brought together approximately 100 Fulbright scholars who were at the time around the States, and we were coming from more than 50 countries around the world. So you can imagine the diversity and the values that we just had from interacting one with each other. It was kind of Fulbright Olympic Games for me. So
I think you
maybe
said it
later on I could talk particularly about the research that I was doing and how I brought some things here and advanced the science.
Yeah, thank you. I think you mentioned one of the most important things that we already mentioned in the previous session, like during the morning. Like one of the biggest impacts doesn't count in science.
Exactly.
Or you know, like just doing the arts or whatever. The huge impact we have is in the society around us, especially those of us who are privileged to work with students. We can share the impact, and not just the impact of the science we did there and the research we did there. It's the impact of meeting people or traveling abroad or having and meeting having different people in our surroundings and the contacts that we keep for the whole life. Yeah. I'll just steal one minute that I didn't plan to mention, but I have to mention it now. Like, I spent my Fulbright time in New York, and that was not my first time in US. I did my research like several times before that, but the Fulbright gave me the new opportunity. And during the time in New York, we had exactly in November, on the 11th of November, we celebrated the holiday there, and we met, like all the Fulbrighters from the county of New York met there. And you know, like I have a great privilege of having one of my colleagues from New York that I first met in New York. She's here today, you know, like she comes from University of Pristina. Thank you, Professor Hassani, for coming here. And we met in New York, and it's, you know, like, not just this celebration, she also made my day. You know, like this is the unique opportunity we have. We meet people in US, and then we meet here again, and probably at some other places in the world. So thank you for coming. Let's get back to our topic. Professor Nikola, I also want to thank you that you joined us last night, and it's a great privilege to have you here also.
I'm used to it.
Yeah, thank you.
Being chosen volunteer, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good to hear. And it's Professor Vladimir Kostić could not join us, but we have you here to share many of your experiences in different fields.
Well,
Please do.
I'm sitting here in front of you with quite mixed feelings because on one hand I was the blessed one. I was the icebreaker, being elite high school student. I was chosen to spend my last year of high school in Berkeley. And most of you don't remember those days when that was the place to be with all the riots, with sexual revolution, with the hippies and everything else. And that was quite an experience. American Field Service was established the same year when Fulbright program in 1946. And I was among the first group of the youth from former Yugoslavia to join to that program. But up north from San Francisco, there is a national park, Sequoia Park, Muir's Woods. And I left a message for myself in one of the trees that one day I'll return as a scientist. And so I returned 16 years later to Stanford, and I was working on my doctoral thesis there. And since the topics that I was working on were of both interest for former Yugoslavian science and for Americans as well, I was the first one to get back-to-back 2 Fulbright scholarships, and they wouldn't let me leave the States, so my age visa was also exceptional. I didn't have to return to Belgrade in order to get it. And so experience in Stanford was quite an experience. First of all, for me, who graduated at Berkeley, it was like coming home. Secondly, I was socializing with people who are from different professions, but were not just the academic level, but those that were from Apple. I met and worked on some topics with people like Steve Jobs and Wozniak, and being a Fulbright scholar, I had opened doors to everything in Stanford. So being from medical field with quite a broad interest, I assisted in several of heart and lung transplantations that were only exclusively done in those days by John Baldwin at Stanford cardiology department. And I was socializing there and in Berkeley with 17 Nobel Prize winners. So that was quite an experience. And then I was the first person in the world to do experimental work with cocaine. I didn't sniff it, but yeah. And then I went, being forensic pathologist, I moved to New York on my second year at Fulbright. So I was there in NYU and Cornell, working at Chief Medical Examiner's office and so on. So that was quite an experience. And when we talk about the science, at least in my days, science in the United States, we have to admit that we are very creative people, but our resources are quite limited, especially in the branches, in the fields that I come from. And, ever since I was a student, I was, for example, interested in electron microscopy. But then you have to, get a grant in order to get few pieces of very sensitive film in order to do your research, and then you go there and you practically don't have any limits. The project that I worked at Cornell, besides my doctoral thesis, had a yearly budget. I'm talking about 1986, 87, 88. My budget was $4 million. So you can imagine what research you can do. At the same time, when I returned, I was privileged to be the vice president of our alumni association, and I was a right hand to Professor Isailović. And in those days, there were 903 of us, Fulbright alumni in former Yugoslavia. Unfortunately, the last time we met after celebrating the 25th anniversary was when Ambassador Zimmerman gathered us at embassy's property and his lawn there, and we were having fun. And that was the last time. And as I said, I'm sitting here with mixed feelings because in '93, I gave up my profession. I quit because being, the coach of our national team in some of the sports, being somebody who was active in all former Yugoslavia, I could not stand the war that was going on here. And, I quit my job, and ever since I didn't have any contacts with scientific world, to say so, but nevertheless, I went worldwide following my hobby, which was applied psychology, and wherever I appear, and I covered 57, 60 countries so far, I always, I always mention that I was Fulbright scholar.
And not just once. Thank you. So, let us now come back to our personal experiences and actually the need to rely on our personal experiences. Although we are working in sciences, and as we said, we are sharing the impact everywhere, not just in science and among our students and the colleagues and friends. How does it reflect on us?
Yeah, so thanks. Well, as I mentioned in my introductory sort of talk, it's very hard for me to speak about general impact of Fulbright scholarship, or even in my own field. In my own institution, of which I'm currently serving as director, so that's Institute of Philosophy in Zagreb, it's a state research institute. We have 19, 20 persons in scientific positions, and of those 20 persons, we have 4 Fulbrighters. So it's actually a very high percentage, and we're all philosophers. And even among those 4 people, all of them have very different careers, a very different impact. Even if I look at our micro group of people, I could not really make one single sentence, okay, how does Fulbright generally influence to us? One interesting example, so for at least 2 of us, Fulbright was along the lines of which I mentioned before, so major productions, some sort of attempts of common projects and so on and so on. For one person, interestingly, and I think we should also mention this kind of experience, the Fulbright experience was, I wouldn't say the word damaging would be kind of really maybe too harsh, but actually it was a younger scholar who actually, after having experienced America, really felt so much that he's incompetent or not up to the level of what he saw in America that he actually practically gave up doing science, and because he simply said, okay, there's nothing for me to do here in this field, in comparison to what he saw in where he was in his host institution. So it's really very mixed. And as I mentioned also, running now as serving as the president of the newly founded, for the 3rd time, Fulbright Association in Croatia. So 3rd time is the charm. I have a personal experience of talking to people in different fields, and it also seems to be a significant difference in people in natural sciences and humanities and social sciences of what happens after Fulbright or during Fulbright. If I just very bluntly and of course very superficially, based on a very short pool of evidence, I summarize things, I would say that it seems to me, again with all restrictions of very superficial research I did, that it is in a certain way harder for humanities to get integrated into faculty or researcher scientists in host institutions in America. It may be due to language. Of course, if you are not a native speaker and you do philosophy or classics or languages, of course, it's a very different story than, so in natural sciences, language is not so much an issue. So that may be one reason. Second reason is that we also encountered, and I might personally testify about it, some sort of, if you're not coming from top-notch European universities, that is Cambridge and Oxford, most likely, and maybe Heidelberg, and so you're simply dismissed.
Below,
so, below
the radar.
Yeah. So, and it also kind of created a little bit of some sort of tension there. It also very much depends on what kind of contact person you have in a host institution, how much you're integrated, so on. This might not be really experience of people in natural sciences, because it might be people, it seems that you have a different role when you come there. Secondly, also this kind of issues that appear afterwards, they might be, for instance, that which might not have been before, that nowadays it seems to be very hard to establish some sort of common projects. And why? It is mostly because of administration and bureaucracy. Namely, we are now European, at least in Croatia, European Union. We have European funds, and which are close to Americans. Americans have their own funds, which are close to European Union. So there's practically very little interest in collaboration, since fundings cannot really be founded. So it might be on a personal level of contact, whatever, but when it comes to filling in the forms and asking for money from European Union or yes, then there is simply lack of interest. And of course, we are so busy with everything that we really can hardly afford just doing something for fun.
Yeah, and I just want to remind you that Luka spent the time at Columbia University, and I also have some of my colleagues working there as associate professors. And this is actually, that is coming to point right now. It's very hard, even if you have the people to collaborate there, it's hard to finish the administration. One of my colleagues just quit trying to write for the project proposal with Columbia people because they couldn't fulfill the administration here, not there. So, yeah, thank you, Luka. This is the topic we also, I think we might work on it, like we might try to move the boundaries and try to make some changes. Jelka, what made you apply for the Fulbright? How did it come to?
Yeah, I'm asking myself these days. Well, it was really a big step. I mean, a lot of paperwork and so on, but it just happened somewhere late in my career, because I applied as a senior scientist to a short stay Fulbright grant of 7 months. In one moment, I realized, because during my career I was focusing more and more in conservation biology. And there were some questions, not questions, but even I'm communicating very easily and very much with the foreign colleagues. But I needed to see with my own eyes how some techniques or how some procedures are applied. And that encouraged me, when I heard that I can apply as a senior scientist, to, design a project. And I got a Fulbright grant, and I came to University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, at the end of 2018, and spent the first half of year 2019 there. And it was interesting that I would never choose Illinois for a place to spend 7 months there, because I'm very deeply in my heart naturalist, so I would choose something with more wilderness and so on. So Illinois was like a giant cornfield with very little of nature left. But my US colleagues told me that there is a team of researchers, Professor Christopher Phillips' team at Institute for Prairie Research Institute at the University of Urbana-Champaign, that they're the most experienced in long-term monitoring of amphibians and reptiles. So I am a herpetologist working on amphibians and reptiles, interested in these conservation problems. And okay, I decided I will sacrifice these 7 months and go there. And it was a really wonderful experience, because first I saw with my own eyes the extent how humans could devastate nature. So I was reading about that. I was teaching my students, because I also teach conservation biology and evolutionary biology at the University of Niš. So I was reading about all this, but I couldn't imagine how huge it is. I mean, and also what was the next interesting thing and very valuable, I met very many people who were actively trying to restore that nature. And it is something which is really, give me a sort of quality in my future work. It means that, well, you should persist. So you should not give up if you do not have ideal conditions. Because I spent 7 months there, very intensely joining the field studies of Professor Phillips' lab. So I was making the notes and looking at the equipment and so on, and I was just realizing, okay, so this is done on this and this way, it should be done that and that. We cannot do that, we can do this, we cannot do that, because, you know, the situation in Serbia is really different. But after return, I didn't give up the idea to improve something in my work, so I have been trying, and I will try to continue to do a little bit of all these things I learned there. And just another thing, well, I didn't expect to meet such a huge amount of honest and kind, gentle, empathic people there. Maybe Urbana-Champaign is a very small community, university city, and even one of my US colleagues told me, oh, there is a hippie community. I mean, they're out of this world. But believe me, I was feeling just like I returned to my childhood. And that is also something which had very positive influence on myself. And I think that actually, even I'm very, how to say, international kind of person. I like different cultures and so on. I couldn't imagine that, well, you can find such a diversity of people in a positive sense there. And that is the main, actually one of the main achievements of Fulbright grant program, that even if you are open-minded and you have internet and so on, if you stay your entire life in one place, which is a little bit petrified or frozen and so on, so you will not be able to understand completely the value of internationalism, and maybe you will lose a very important part of your ability to work, to act, you know, to preserve or to improve all these human values we need to be preserved in this world. So that's it.
Yeah, thank you. And I will just, before we get back to Radmilo, I will let myself, again, steal you a minute or two, because I think there is also one very important thing that we have to mention. Maybe this is how all of us is shaped in advance, but maybe this is also something that the Fulbright program gives us. Let me share just a short experience of mine. I applied for the first time, you know, like, and I was always like a fighter. I guess everyone here is a kind of a fighter, and we are born like the fighters and born in a hard times, probably, many of us. So, you know, like, I applied for the first time, and I went to the finals, but I didn't get the scholarship for the first time. I was, you know, like, my whole world was devastated, because I thought, like, my professors in New York with whom applied, which are close to retirement, like, I lost my chance. And then, you know, like, it was the year, it was a month, actually, before the COVID breakout. So, you know, like, then the COVID came out, and I said, like, okay, maybe this is not that bad that I didn't get this, because we had, in our generation, we had people who left, I mean, like, went to US and then had to come back because everything was stopped. You know about the whole story about the pandemics. And then, you know, like, in the meantime, I also broke my leg, and I was in a hospital for a time, and I was in a sick leave for 4 months. And then I thought, like, why not apply again? And then I went to the finals again, and I got it for the second time. And then when I were there with Vukica and the whole team in the Fulbright embassy, I said, like, before I left, of course, and I said, like, I told the story about this, and I said, you know, like, I came back, and now this year you have to give me the scholarship. And actually, this is how I got it. And I also think this is. Okay. Thank you, Vukica. Thank you. This is my point of view. Of course, I'm kidding. This is also, I think, something that we already have, because this is why we applied for Fulbright. But as Jelka said, it's not the same when we come back. We are always, you know, like, at least one level up in everything that we did, like in the fights that we had to fight, in spreading out our stories, in spreading out our experiences. And what is very important, I think we always want to come back and go back to US, and of course not just to US and to different countries. Radmilo, you had a very, very huge career at the Faculty of Agriculture, and you have many experiences brought about by Fulbright program, and also not just in economy and agriculture, but also the sustainable development. Share something with us, please. Yeah.
Well, what shall I tell you at the moment? Probably this period that I spent in the United States was a turning point in my life. Definitely it was a turning point in my life. So after I returned back to Belgrade, I tried to maintain all the contacts with the people from the United States and also with the Fulbrighters in the region, in Europe. During 1996, I was invited to be a reviewer of the second assessment report of the Working Group 3 of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Probably those Fulbright links helped me in that sense. In June 1995, the first international Fulbright conference was organized in Warsaw by the Polish Fulbright Alumni Association, the US Fulbright Commission. The title was Education and Transition to Market Economy in Countries of Central and Eastern Europe. And Fulbright Association members from Belgrade were invited. There was an invitation in spite of the sanctions, you know. And one of the members of Alumni Association from Belgrade managed to go to Warsaw and to participate in the conference. And there I had a very good opportunity to meet some people that will help me to create something very important, my stay in Budapest, my Budapest years. I spent 5 years at a Central European University at the Department of Environmental Science and Policy, and those contacts with Fulbrighters from Hungary, from Germany, helped me a lot. I think that membership in international Fulbright network helped Serbian Fulbrighters to take place in the global policy arena. And I was lucky. I had an opportunity to be there and to have all those links. And all my later contacts with the Club of Rome, with the World Academy of Arts and Science, also are linked with the Fulbright community. So for me, it was a very, very fruitful period. And unfortunately, my only visit to the United States. Later on, I was in a position just to observe what's going on down there, but I hope one day I will go back there as a tourist.
Thank you. Katarina? I stopped you like in the previous session, so I guess there is much more you can say.
Yeah, indeed.
And share, of course.
Indeed. Your story, your previous story, reminded me maybe just to highlight that I have applied twice for the Fulbright Scholarship, and I have been awarded twice. However, the first time there was a kind of situation and there were floods in 2014, and unfortunately I didn't go. So I thought that in 2015 it will just automatically be transferred. However, it was not the case. So I applied again, and fortunately I was awarded again. So I spent there 1 year instead of half year, instead of 6 months, because my host asked me to stay there, to try to stay there, and she was very kind to cover the expenses. And my stay there was supported by Vukica and the team here. So in a way, I was compensated for this 2014. But regarding, let's say, research and science, what I did there, let's begin the story 3 years ago when I was a young a research assistant. I began working at the Faculty of Pharmacy. And at the time, I was, I would say, very brave to dive into a completely new field of research. It was unknown at this region, but it was also at the beginning in the Europe and a bit more advanced in the States. So somehow I managed and I did my research, and what we were trying to do at the time and what was the whole idea of this research is that we wanted to use novel technologies, we wanted to use computational methods and to dive into the data, clinical data, which were coming from clinical research or clinical trials, and we wanted to find some new information. And actually what we saw is that the principle, one size or one dose fits all patients, is not suitable. So we were trying to explore the variability in drug behavior. So we were asking ourselves why one dosing regimen does not suit all patients, and what are the reasons behind it? And then, if it doesn't suit, what is the best way to dose drugs in these particular groups of the patients or vulnerable populations? So this was, the idea behind the methodology that we were using. So as I said, I took my PhD. It was kind of experimental PhD because, nobody knew about this methodology. And probably my professors thought that, that was the beginning and the end of the method. But on the other hand, I became assistant professor and I wanted to enhance my skills, and I wanted to develop basically these methods and to develop completely new area of research at the Faculty of Pharmacy. And maybe I was also insecure about my knowledge, about my skills compared to the rest of the world. So I understood that at the time I had to go somewhere to learn more, to upgrade it, to get better, and basically to see where I stand, compared to the others. And what was the best way to do it? The best way to do it is to go to the lab where the experts were the leaders in the field. And you know how nothing in life comes by chance? The leader in this pharmacometrics field is actually my colleague who was studying with me during the undergraduate studies. And she holds a lab in the States at the University of California, San Francisco. So I contacted her and asked her if I could, join her team for a specific period of time. And of course, she said yes. And Fulbright scholarship was actually my visa to make my professional dreams and my wishes come true. I have to tell you that it was not easy to leave, but on the other hand, it was also not easy to come back. Maybe even harder.
That's what we all experienced.
Yeah. It was really an amazing experience. I was exposed to new techniques, new methodologies. I had the opportunity really to work what is known today as big data. So I had data from big clinical trials, multiple clinical trials, and we were actually trying to solve some challenges which existed worldwide when we talk about global health problems. For example, I was working in a project dealing with pharmacoprevention of HIV in patients who are at a high risk of having or getting HIV. Or we were working to solve the treatment problems when we talk about tuberculosis and stuff like that. So at the end, I can say that, I'm proud because I'm just a small piece of one big puzzle which changed some things in this area. So based on our results, some new clinical trials were initiated. Some changes in the protocols when we talk about treatments of tuberculosis were also performed as a result of these studies which were done there. It was a lab where, full of professionals with different backgrounds, coming from different countries. we basically didn't know each other's native language, but we understood each other very well because we had a unique goal, you know, to advance the care of the patients. So returning from the States with UCSF, Savić, Lab, and Fulbright alumni in my credentials was really a game changer. It was not just a matter of the number of the publications that we had, it was not a matter of the projects, it was actually the matter that it opened the doors for new collaborations. It opened the doors for collaborations with other researchers around Europe. We, you know, initiated some new research protocols. We did many new things. And at the Faculty of Pharmacy, the approach and PhD that I did is now kind of standard of research that we do in our country. So in a way, my mission was to transfer small UCSF at my faculty of pharmacy. And it really gave me the courage also to apply to various calls for the projects. And last year, I was awarded a scientific project from the Science Fund of the Republic of Serbia, where the focus is actually on using these methodological tools to advance the care of patients who are suffering from inflammatory bowel diseases. So we would like to give the contribution into this field because we have also a significant number of patients in our countries who suffer from IBD. And the interesting thing is that one of the external collaborators in our project is actually Professor Rada Savić, who was my host back in the States. So it's, you know, a way how, you know, you give, but you get something, and it's actually just an exchange of knowledge, of skills, experience, and so on.
And it's a huge network
And
everywhere, like on different levels. Actually, I like the thing that you mentioned. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
It's actually a great term.
Yeah.
And I think we are all a great game changers here. But I think, Professor Nikola, you mentioned that you left science, let's say, like in the official way. But I guess you are one of the real game changers here.
Well, you see, when I look at these two gentlemen in the first row, then it inspired me to reflect on a couple of things. First of all, Professor Labus had mentioned today the word patriotism. It was understood in those days, you know, when I was in Berkeley as high school student, and when I was in Fulbright scholarship, it was understood that we are going to return and that our knowledge, our know-how, our experience will share to the benefit of our society, science field, whatever. And at the same time, reflection to His Excellency Ambassador, we were ambassadors of our country. You know, when I went to high school there, they didn't know where I was coming from because it was Russian, Soviet intervention in Czechoslovakia. So I was from I don't know, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, whatever. They simply could not figure out where I come from. And they were surprised to realize that I was not, you know, from the other side of the Iron Curtain and so on. But regarding the younger colleagues here, those who are or are going to be in this or similar program, you know, the only asset that we really have is what we have in between our ears. Therefore, it's important to realize that when you go somewhere, in this case, when we went, at least when I went with this scholarship, you need to go, you owe it yourself to go through your experience with your eyes and ears wide open. And that's what I did. That's what I did. So you see, I socialized via SMUG, Stanford Macintosh Users Club, with people from Apple, with scientists from Stanford University, and Lockheed Development Center was just next door, so they were part of it. And I did all sorts of things besides, you know, being there on the program that I was on. When I moved to New York, since in my early days I used to play ice hockey professionally, and I heard that Trump bought Wollman's rink in Central Park. And since I like to study and like to work overnight, I wanted to get there. So I asked our colleague, physicist Maglić from Sombor, who bought the apartment at Trump Tower, to introduce me to Trump. So since both of us liked, he preferred women, but we both liked bourbon, we were socializing for some time. But you see, again, being the scientist meant something. I was there. I was Mr. Somebody because I was Fulbright scholar.
Yeah.
At the same time, you know, I was interested in being forensic pathologist in what was going on there. And believe it or not, I made the largest brain bank in the world in those days, matching brains from those who committed suicide and those who accidentally were killed. You know, jumpers and those who fell working on, I don't know, construction building and so on. So you see, you need to be part of it. And I'll just finish with the fact that because I was Fulbright scholar, because a lot of doors were open for me, I was able to be part of things that are happening those days that opened the doors to me so that when I went to London, the Lampert Road to Metropolitan Police Laboratories, although in those days that was, you know, development of the DNA fingerprinting was just beginning, and it was kind of top secret, you know. I had two bobbies bringing, you know, to the airport after I passed the customs control, bringing, you know, the reagents and manuals and all those things. So you see, the DNA fingerprinting came through the channels that were not official ones, but nevertheless, that was, you know, my message generally in life. See the principles. There are 5, 6 principles in between, in front of the brackets, you know, and apply them to all 7 pillars of quality of life, and your life will be, regardless of what's going around, will be your life. At the end, you can always sing, "I did it my way."
Thank you. We have actually a very nice reminder of the time here. So we have 7 minutes left, but we are a little bit late. But still, I would like to ask you all, or at least some of you, to give us a final remark on this.
Well, thanks. Well, first I would like one word to sort of continue what my previous speaker said. I think one of the big advantages, or one of which was not mentioned maybe, or maybe it's not in everyone's experience of Fulbright scholarship, is namely flexibility of Fulbright scholarship. That was at least my case. I came to New York, to Columbia, to study some Renaissance manuscripts in order to find some things about the birth of modern science, so kind of this criticism of Aristotle and so on. But I ended up writing a completely different book, namely on Roman ships. And I mean, after doing research on ancient, on Renaissance manuscripts, I realized I still have some time left, and then I finished and co-authored another project, which was then later on published in Oxford. So it was really this scholarship that enabled me to do so, and this is really unique thing. So. But as my final word, maybe I would just say we should not forget another very important contribution or one added value of Fulbright scholarship, which is sort of meta value of this scholarship, namely this very meeting.
Yes.
The Fulbright associations we have in Serbia and Croatia and so on, and without Fulbright scholarship this would not exist. And this is also an added value, not only to science, but also to society as it is. So that's really very important contribution of Fulbright scholarship that should not be forgotten.
Yeah, the flexibility is actually a very important thing that you've mentioned.
Yeah.
Like, Jelka?
Well, I have nothing special to add, because I think that we all have the pretty same impressions and experiences and so on. I'm just returning again and again to Senator Fulbright, And maybe a common view of the people from our region to some charity things, which could be, okay, he established that a foundation because, that there is some sort of, it is useful for something. But I'm not sure. Usually there is such impression about big countries and the ways they are trying to attract people and make a nice impression about them. But I am deeply assured that Senator Fulbright really had an human idea, and I'm very in his mind when he decided to invest a part of his, his charity or whatever, to something which is not any value that could be used by him personally or his descendants and so on. And it is really something that is for sure that that person, that he was deeply aware that communication and direct communication among people can make this world better. And that's the greatest value of his foundation, especially because it is a worldwide.
Yeah.
And I think that there is something United States should be proud of. And I'm happy that I heard about a little bit more about his life and achievements, and that my impression actually were correct.
Thank you, Jelka. Radmilo, the final remark.
Just short. Keep Fulbright spirit alive and keep Fulbright network active. Even in the gloomiest political environment, being Fulbrighter is something. Believe me, it's very, very important to keep this awareness of being Fulbrighter. So it is very important to keep such Fulbright alumni associations and to maintain relations with similar associations, not only in neighboring countries, but globally. Believe me, it helped me a lot.
Thank you.
Okay.
Katarina?
Oh, it's very difficult now to say anything after this. Maybe just to highlight that we all talked about what we got, but I would like to maybe say that I'm sure if our hosts are here, that they will also say how much they got it from our coming to their institutions. So as Dr. Nick mentioned, we are the country with limited resources, but our way of thinking, our original way of solving some problems, because we don't have resources, were very and are very much appreciated in the environment like host institutions in the States. So let's say that this is my
thank
final.
You for mentioning
Thank
that.
you.
And Dr. Nick?
Well, I always consider the whole idea of Senator Fulbright, and before that of Hemingway and American Field Service, and as a larger picture, because the life is very poor if you are just focused on something that you do more or less because you either have to or you like it, but then you miss everything else. So there are always additional things in life besides being scientist, besides being researcher and so on. And I'm one of the proofs for that. I ended up my judo career as sensei of American Judo Academy that was established by Jigoro Kano, the founder of judo. And among my 7 children, one son is American from the days when I was in Fulbright Scholarship, whatever that means.
Thank you. We are right on time, and I just want once again to thank all the panelists, to thank the U.S. Embassy and the Fulbright Society in Serbia. Thank you for letting us shape a better society. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Coffee break and start earlier, 15 minutes if everybody's here, so we can start lunch at 2 o'clock, okay?
Lunch at 2.
Izvolite. Odemo se. super bilo. Tanja, kako nas ocenjuje? Ja mislim da je super bilo, sad da čujemo kako će ostati.